Hi, welcome to this video that will explain about Milestone 4, which is going to be a little bit different than the ones you've done up to this point. And this mainly has to do with the nature of our condensed class. The question you're going to answer in Milestone 4 is, what is your marketing message? And it's a process, and you need to go the process by steps. So um, first thing you want to do is review who your target market is, be very, very clear about who they are. And then you got to think about when you did your product discussion, which you did in the previous milestone, you're going to talk about the needs and wants that your target has and the ones that you want to address in your marketing message. And those would be the most important ones that you want to get across. Um, and remember that you're part of an existing brand. If you recall, when the final project was introduced, there was background information provided in a document that talks about the company itself, its history, and what the existing brand is all about, and things that were important to that company. And the question is, are you going to leverage those things in your marketing message as well? So the very first step is you need to set your messaging objectives. So what's the primary goal for your introductory advertising? And again we talked about I talked about in the micro lectures that um, what your goals are dependent on where you are in the life cycle of the product. So we're talking about the brand new launch and introduction. So that the approach that you're going to take or the strategy you're going to use here is going to be different than what you do on a more on an ongoing basis. So again, it's introductory advertising. So what are the real objectives that you have for this messaging? Is it to build up awareness, build up that brand association, get people to act on an offer? Again, you could have multiple objectives, but you have to have one primary one because that you need to be very specific and target your thinking and your approach to exactly how uh, your message gets put across. Once you've decided that, then you're going to determine the primary approach to your ad. And so you're going to make a decision here. Are you going to take a cognitive type of approach or an emotional type of approach? If you choose cognitive, your message is going to be somewhat rational. So it could be comparative, for example, your brand against another brand, or non-comparative and really just kind of talk about the specific features and benefits, but a rational approach to it, okay? A more emotional approach, and it's, again, every ad is going to probably have a little bit of both of these in either case, but you want to have a primary approach that you want to lean on. Emotional approach is you want to connect to them more to the emotional side of your target, like, for example, showing a family sitting around eating dinner or friends at a party, something along those lines. So the more of an emotional approach to your ad. You're going to decide one or the other of those is to be, again, your primary approach. Um, and then the second step is you want to design the ad itself and start thinking about, okay, again, leveraging off of what your primary approach is. If it's cognitive, do you want to have a one-sided and concentrate on a primary feature or benefit of your product, as an example? In the two-sided approach, you're talking about the pros and cons of your product, maybe compared to others or other alternatives. If you choose the emotional one, you could use a dramatic approach. We talked about that in the micro lecture. In other words, addressing a specific problem that is an issue as far as you know that your target customer has and doesn't think is important. You can address that specifically with the product as being a solution. We've seen these play out before. It's just like a kind of a story. It's like, how do I solve this problem? And it's like, oh, you need our great laundry detergent, and so it kind of plays out as an interaction between people. You could use a negative emotion approach, even humor. I'm going to tell you those are both risky, and I'm going to suggest that it's probably not a real good idea for us to do that, especially in an introductory stage for the product. Okay. And the third step, you want to outline the message, really kind of say exactly what you want to get across. What's the primary message? Put these into your own words, and then try to think about a way that you would communicate that to your target. And then so if you're going to let's use it as an example and say, like, our product is healthier than others. We can probably have to have some kind of supporting message behind it. Just saying it doesn't really mean a lot. You want to, kind of support it with some facts about the product. that make it healthier, as an example. If you have a secondary message, you'd have to outline what that is as well. You don't necessarily have to have one, but I would say one of the things that you could include as a secondary message, this is be a good place where you leverage the existing brand. And then finally, you have to have a closing. What's a closing? Closing is really just sort of a what action do we want the recipient of our message to take? Go to a store, go online, get more information, get a coupon, do some, download a promotion. We've seen these things at the ends of commercials all the time where it says, and go online and put in this special code and you get this special offer, those types of things. So what is your closing going to be in your message, okay? And then the last thing you have to do is make a determination how you're going to measure the effectiveness of your advertising. So several options or ways of going about doing that were outlined in the micro lecture this week. Just pick two. You could very potentially do more than that, but just pick two and give your reasons why you think they would best measure your effectiveness, and outline those in your milestone. So in closing, again, I said this is a little bit different, this final milestone, because it extends over 2 weeks, but because the class is coming to a rapid end, you'll want to address this part of it in the first part of the milestone, which you can submit, and I'll grade that and give you some comments back. But what you're going to do next week will be more talk about the types of channels and the channel strategy that you are going to employ. You'll learn more about those things next week. But here's the thing. You're not going to actually hand in an addended milestone 4. It's just basically going to end up in your final project plan submission. So it's something that I won't necessarily grade or give you any kind of feedback on until the final project's already submitted. But it's also pretty straightforward, and you'll see what's going on next, what goes on with that next week. And it's really actually very simple. To give you a heads up, you're going to choose channels that your target customer clearly shows they utilize for messaging and for information purposes. So that's not that hard to do. That's going to require a little bit of research on your part, but not as much as you might think. Okay, and so that's why this milestone is a little bit different. You're going to hand in most of it this week, but then a part of it next week as well in your final project plan. Okay, if you have any questions about that, please let me know. If you have any comments or need any help with it, I'm happy to do that for you. So just get me an email and we'll work it out. Okay, best of luck to you with this milestone, and if you need any additional help, don't hesitate to reach out. Good luck.